What's going on, guys? Mark here and welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, I owe you guys an apology. This video that you guys are watching right now should have been released like over a year ago, but the feedback, the questions, and the support that you guys shown in the first video made me realize that after I figure out all the craziness of life and it all settles down, that I'd eventually be back to make some more videos for you guys. So here I am in the first week of 2022, recording the second part of the two-part series where we're modifying my Womier K87 keyboard. If you guys haven't seen the first video, I highly suggest you check that out. I'll leave a clickable card on the top left-hand corner where you could go check it out. In that video, if I remember correctly, we covered lubricating the stabs, applying the Band-Aid mod, and I think I changed my keycaps in that video. In this video though, the second video, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to lubricate your switches. Now, like I said in the last video, this is just gonna be a brief overview of how you do it. If you're looking for something a little more in-depth or just more resources about customizing a keyboard, I'll leave some of the YouTubers in the keyboard community that I actually watch in the description box down below, and you can go ahead and check them out. Anyway, without further ado, let's hop right into the video. Alrighty guys, so the first thing you need to do when lubricating your switches is to remove your switches from your keyboard. Now, the beautiful thing about this particular keyboard is that it's hot swappable. What that means is that I'm able to change out my switches without needing to desolder them, and it seriously makes the whole process a lot quicker. Unfortunately, desoldering is not a step I will cover in this video, but I may cover it in a future video, as well as other alternatives to lubricating your switches without needing to remove them. I will say though, removing them and taking them apart is always the preferred way. Once you have the switches removed, the next step is to take each one of them apart. I suggest getting a switch opener to make this process a bit easier. Otherwise, you can also use a very small flathead screwdriver to pry open the top housing from the bottom housing. Done correctly, the switch will separate into 4 different parts: the top housing, the stem, the spring, and the bottom housing. I personally like to start with the bottom housing for the lubrication process. The lubricant I will be using today is Krytox's 205 from Kibo. This is generally the standard choice for linear and tactile switches, but it always comes down to personal preference. Now, the golden rule to keep in mind is less is more. As you can see, although I dip the whole brush into the lube, I do remove any excess by brushing it against the edge of the container. It's a lot easier to add lube if needed than to remove lube because there was too much. Taking the bottom housing, we will focus on the 2 channels where the stem slides up and down. Go ahead and apply even coats to each channel. I personally like applying 2 even strokes with the freshly dipped brush. Using whatever is left on the brush, I like to apply lube on the center post that the spring sits on, and the spring itself. This is personal preference, but I believe these coats will help mute the spring and prevent any pinging sound. After you are done with the bottom housing and spring, go ahead and coat the brush for a second time, and don't forget to rub off any excess lube. Now, the stem is what I believe to be the most important part to lubricate. It's the piece that will be moving the most in the switch, and applying the perfect amount of lube can sometimes get tricky. With the freshly dipped brush, begin by applying a layer on the channel sliders on each side of the stem. Next, move on to the back and the front of the stem. Remember to apply a clean, even coat that should give a slight shine when done properly. If you have linear switches, feel free to apply a layer of lube on these stem legs, but because these are tactile switches, I did not lubricate them. With what's left on the brush, Return back to the sides of the stem and spread that pre-applied lube on the channel sliders throughout the whole side like so. And with that said, we are done lubing the stem. Place the stem on top of the spring like so, and don't forget to face the stem legs towards the metal leaf spring on the bottom housing. The last and final piece is the top housing. I like to take whatever lube is left on the brush from lubricating the stem and apply it in the slider channels of the top housing. This again is personal preference, but I found that sometimes my switches would still feel a bit scratchy when I don't lube these channels. There shouldn't be much lube left on the brush anyway, so these should be very light coats. Once complete, take the rest of the almost assembled switch, line up the brand name on the top housing with the metal leaf spring on the bottom housing, and push them together until both housings lock in place. And congratulations, you have lubed your first switch. Now to repeat this process for all the other switches. It helps to have a lubing station, but one great tip I came across is to divide the switches into sets. Maybe do a set of 20 switches at a time, listen to some music or maybe a podcast, and just enjoy the process. All your switches will be lubed in no time. Well, there you have it guys, that's how you lube your switches for your mechanical keyboard. Full disclosure though, like I said throughout the video, all the steps that I took when lubing my switches pretty much boils down to personal preference. I'm sure if you were to ask anyone else in the keyboard community who lubes switches, they probably have their own particular process that makes their switches feel exactly how they want them to feel. Basically what I'm trying to say is there isn't one right way to lube switches. So for other ideas, make sure you check out the description box below for those other YouTubers that I watch and for the list of materials that I used in this video so you guys know exactly what to get. Well, that about wraps it up for me guys. If you found this video remotely helpful, please hit that like button and leave some comments and feedback in the comment section down below. If you have any questions, definitely leave them in the comment section down below. If you like this video and any other tech/gaming video for that matter, consider subscribing because I got a lot of plans for my channel in 2022 and seriously, this is only the beginning. Anyway, I hope you guys had a good start to your year and I will see you in the next one. Later.